Today I'm working on a new creative outlet. There's a thing down here called Martin County Rocks, and a lot of other cities around the U.S. and around the world actually participate in this, but this is one, Martin County, that I'm actually going to belong to. And what it is, it's a Facebook page where you actually go ahead and paint rocks with little messages or artwork, and you just leave them hidden around the county, and you post little hints about where you hide them. This way here, if anybody finds them, it brightens up their day. Can go ahead and re-hide your rock, or they can actually keep it for themselves. I'm participating. There's only a few rules to go along with this. Of course, do not hide it inside of any stores. A lot of them frown upon it, especially if they're a craft store and they sell painted rocks. Of course, do not hide them inside of food stores. You don't want your rocks getting in with food. A lot of stores will let you go ahead and hide them outside. Do not throw them onto people's lawns where they can damage lawnmowers. And of course, do not steal rocks from people's landscape. To get started, I actually bought rocks at Lowe's, and these are the Tropical River rocks. They're pretty cheap. They're about $8 a bag for about a 25 or 30 pound bag, and you got a lot of rocks in them. So this should last me a while. This is the first batch that I'm actually working on. Painting on rocks is a new medium for me. I'm having fun doing it, and I'm hoping these are going to brighten up somebody's day if they should find them. Matthew 19, got a palm tree since I'm living in Florida now. Got one here that says, God loves you. Got a smile one. And I'm working on this one here. Well, this is a new experiment for me. So what I've done is I've actually got different types of paints that I'm using. I've got some artist paints, some leftover paint from other experiments. The cheapest paints to use, though, are going to be these craft paints. This one here is actually by Apple Barrel. You can pick them up on Amazon really cheap. I am also experimenting with using Sharpie markers. They suggest really not using Sharpie markers, although if you're going to go ahead and seal your rocks with a acrylics, especially a spray-on acrylic, you don't want to use any acrylic or any type of sealant that you rub on it, because it can smear your artwork, especially if you're using markers. But these Sharpie markers are actually supposed to be waterproof and water resistant, and I'm actually going to go ahead and seal them as well. So I'll put a post down below in my description of the links of everything that I'm using today. And what I'm going to be sealing mine with, there's something that I sealed canvases with in the past. This is Krylon. It's a UV resistant clear acrylic that protects against UV rays, non-yellowing, moisture resistant, and dries in minutes. It says it can be used on canvases, concrete, paper mache, silk flowers, and everything else. I've actually used this on canvas before, so it works really well on canvases. We'll see how it does on rocks. But I'll have a link to this on Amazon down below as well. So because painting on rocks is a new medium for me, what I actually done with this particular rock right here was I went ahead and outlined it first. I have a stencil, and I just kind of laid my stencil. See if I can get this line up the way I had it. I just kind of laid my stencil on the rock itself, and then I took my Sharpie and went ahead and outlined it. And now that it's outlined, I'm actually going to go ahead and paint in the details on it. One thing I'm finding with painting on rocks, because of the type of surface that I'm working with, I'm finding that the color does not actually always come out 100% what the actual paint that I'm using. Of course, some of my brushes are a little bit dirtier prior painting on different rocks. I have water nearby so that you can rinse your brushes off. I'm actually doing a bunch of different colors. I want this one here to be really colorful as well. There's the one I just finished. And then on the back of it, I put Martin Rocks Facebook so they know which group it's from. And then I went ahead and put my sherviewphotography.com website on the bottom. So if they ever wonder what artist actually paint this one. The one thing I want to share today about painting on rocks. When it comes to painting on rocks, what you want to do is you want to dab your paint on. Now with acrylics do dry flat. So I wouldn't worry too much about the bumps in that. But if you try to paint the paint on, this is what ends up happening with rocks. You see how the paint is actually not sticking too well, and you're getting all these streaks, and you can see your rocks behind it. So with painting on rocks, the best thing to do to apply your color is to actually dab it. Just keep dabbing all over the place so that's nice and thick. Now this will actually dry smooth. Oops, I keep moving the camera. But this will actually dry smooth. Then you can go ahead and put your next layer. But yeah, don't try to brush it on, because that's what happens when you brush. It becomes streaky, it doesn't cover. Actually go ahead and dab it on. And I'm using a kind of a thick brush right now, and big brush, because I actually want to cover the surface of this rock. If I was going to do some small detail work, for example, on this one that I just finished with the Welcome Fall, I used a very, very fine, you can see how fine that is, brush to actually go ahead and paint the lettering and the detail. Painting rocks, dab. You'll have much better luck, especially if you're trying to cover a background like that. On this particular one right here with the various sea life, what I did was I went and picked up this little basket of cheap stamps, which had all sorts of marine life on it. And then you get a little rubber stamp like this, a little wood stamp. There's rubber on the back of it. And I went ahead and took my ink and I actually stamped the surface. But because stamping would not be permanent, then I just went ahead and painted over it and added the color. I'm going to seal these anyway with an acrylic sealer, so I'm not really too concerned about it rubbing off. I did a test with a canvas that I had painted where I actually stamped a shell and seahorse, and once I applied the sealer over it, it didn't rub off. So I went ahead and stamped these, and then I painted over it to add the color. Some people actually use the rocks to bring awareness to a specific cause or charity they're working with. I'm doing one right here for Turner Syndrome Society. It's a disorder that my wife actually has. I'm going ahead and making this one to bring awareness. I don't see too many Turner Syndrome support groups down here in Florida, as I saw in North Carolina and other states, but who knows, maybe we can change that. But I just decided to go ahead and do the Turner Syndrome Society butterfly in honor of her and bring awareness to this area. Hey, I got about a dozen rocks made up, all different designs on them. Try to zoom in and show you a few. And on the back of them, I put Martin Rocks, which is the Facebook group that I belong to, that I'm doing this for. And then I also got my website on the back, srviewphotography.com. This right here to get a little idea who placed these. Now comes the final step of actually sealing them, so that they'd be weather protected. Now, where I was living before, I actually had a whole area out back that I could actually spray and not worry about getting it everywhere. But here I only have a balcony, so you can see that I actually put down a tarp to protect the balcony area, and I've got my rocks in a pan. The spray that I'm going to be using today is the Krylon UV Resistant Clear. It's supposed to protect outdoors as well. The only problem is it has a real strong odor. That's why I got the door closed. And I'm also going to put on a fan to help blow the odor away. And what we're going to do is we're going to do light coats first. I'm just going to go ahead and let that first coat dry. On to the directions, they say you should not use the spray when there's high humidity because it will take longer to dry. This is Florida, good luck with that, but I've used it in North Carolina when there was high humidity and it still only took about maybe a few minutes to dry. I'm using the matte one right now, so it's not going to have that shine. Next time I might actually try the gloss and see what the gloss looks like. We got the first coat painted on top. I'm going to go ahead and let that dry for a few minutes. I'll apply the second coat in a bit. So I went ahead and sprayed the second coat already. Both coats are completely dry. One thing you will notice is even though this protectant is non-yellowing on the natural stone, you can see that it actually did yellow just a little bit. Both coats are done. It's dry to the touch. On this one here, right there, and over here above the S and above the O, the Sharpie marker did actually run a little bit. It's not that bad, but it's not smearing to the touch at all, so I think it will actually do okay. If you're going to use black rocks, I would probably still go ahead and say paint the backbone before adding your lettering to them. I'm going to go ahead and leave these out here to let the odor actually dissipate a little more from that spray before I bring them into the house and have that odor throughout the house. One thing it would be nice to do is if you find my rocks or you find somebody else's rocks and you are going to rehide them, to actually go ahead and give them a coat with a sealer if the paint isn't that bad. This way here, just to protect the original artwork a little bit more. I'm going to be hiding mine in places that the weather will not get to them as bad, especially down here with the Florida rains. If I find any that are out in the open, or if you find any of mine and you rehide them out in the open, or even if not out in the open, just go ahead and give them a reseal with another coat of protectant. That way there, it does not ruin the artwork that somebody's put time in for. So that's all for now on introduction on how to paint your rocks. Get involved with your Facebook groups. I'm involved with Martin Rocks here down in Florida. There's Port St. Lucie Rocks, there's St. Pete Rocks, and these Facebook groups are happening all over the United States and around the world, and some people have actually found that their rocks have traveled great distances. So I hope you have fun. And again, this is Scott Hervey with Scott Hervey Photography, Art, and More. It is a fun little project for your whole family to get involved with, especially if you have children. Kids will love painting rocks, going out and hiding them, and then going out and finding them. If their parents belong to the Facebook group, go ahead and taking a picture with their rock and saying, look what I found.